Hey everyone, welcome to Locked On Lakers for Thursday. Brian Kamenetsky, Andy Kamenetsky. Andy, as the Lakers kick off a stretch of unusually winnable games for them starting Thursday night with San Antonio. How weird have things gotten in this season? National writers are answering questions about whether LeBron James is going to be traded. That's how weird things have gotten. We'll talk about that and a lot of random Lakers coming up next on Locked On Lakers.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank everybody for making Locked On Lakers your first listen of every day. Monday through Friday, we post as early as we can. So no matter where you are, how you listen, where you listen, when you listen, you have a fresh episode of the podcast to listen to. I want to let you know as well that this episode of Locked On Lakers is brought to you by Truebill. Truebill is the new app that saves you money by helping you identify and stop paying for the subscriptions you don't want or need, and can even negotiate better deals on those you want to keep. So a bunch of stuff we want to get into today, Andy, including the Lakers really leaning into this. Let's bring back former Lakers to the fold. We'll talk about that. We're going to get the very last game of Staples Center and some of the emotions attached to that. It's been kind of a big deal for Lakers fans. Well, let's start with LeBron James. Before we get to the weird Sham Charania on from The Athletic and Stadium on with Pat McAfee on the Pat McAfee show, shooting down rumors that LeBron is on his way out. Let's talk about stuff that they're actually doing here in Los Angeles, because that's relevant. David Fizdale was asked, as all these players are, after the Lakers lost Wednesday night to Phoenix, or Tuesday night, I should say, about how they're getting through this. And he pointed to LeBron and Vogel as both kind of keeping everyone on a level field, but also not letting things slide.
Yeah, and in particular, what I thought was interesting about it was Fizdale stressing that it's really a partnership between LeBron and Frank Vogel. This is part of the quote. So the voice is a collective voice of stay the course, stay together, go through the rough stuff, figure it out, and keep being solution-based. And it's been headed up by Frank and LeBron. He and Frank have been nothing short of spectacular on preaching patience, but holding people accountable. It's easy to say, be patient and just gloss over crap and act like things are all great, but it's not. And they don't let it seem like that. They're calling people out. We're addressing the things that we need to clean up. And those two are really spearheading that. So again, it's not just the idea of what LeBron or what Frank Vogel as the leaders of these teams are of this team are asking from the players. It's that they are doing it in tandem in as unified a voice as possible.
Well, it certainly seems that way. And, you know, the part that sticks out to me is just the idea of like trying to find that balance, because I mean, it's very clear after, I mean, we've noted, and other people have noted, that at times, you know, Frank Vogel has noted at times the energy is not there, the effort's not there, and it's taken time for them to understand kind of what they are as a team right now and recalibrate how they approach games, how they approach stuff, and like just what their talent can do for them. But I have never gotten the impression that they aren't willing to talk about in a meeting, talk about in the film room, hold guys accountable for stuff or whatever. Like I've always been left with the impression that they are doing that 2019, 2020 model where the group can hold everyone else in the group accountable for doing the right thing. It hasn't translated, but it's a fascinating problem that they have there, because on the one hand, you can't panic, you can't freak out, as Carmelo Anthony pointed out on Wednesday in media availability. You know, so many people were asking him about Christmas Day memories and, you know, and that game and how it's special it is. And at one point he noted, like, guys, we're still in December. Like, there's a lot of time. Russell Westbrook after the game Tuesday said, like, look, I'm excited. We've got 50 games left, you know, still in front of us to get to where we want to be, to show that we are what we are. So that balance between not freaking out, because freaking out doesn't do anything for you, and still trying to figure out what you are and how you have to win and what has to change is very difficult and really interesting. Like, and they are stuck in the middle of it in times when trying to get to those answers is hard because you don't have the same lineup 2 games in a row ever.
I just think it also matters because there's been so much talk that even Frank Vogel has been asked about with his job security, and this team continuing to hover around 500. So, Fizdale presenting this as still a collective between LeBron and Frank Vogel without
with everybody on board,
without afterwards doing this, and doing the Magic Johnson wink, wink, wink. Like, we all know what's going on, folks. He seemed very sincere.
But, it's funny, like
talking about this.
Sure, but it's funny, like, it is related to the other sort of unusual news of the day where, Shams Charania of The Athletic and Stadium goes on the Pat McAfee show, and the guy's asking about whether or not LeBron is going to be traded or wants to be traded and all this other stuff.
This is apparently chatter that Pat McAfee had heard. Shams said himself, like, I'm not even sure where this came from.
You had no idea, and I didn't know either. I was sort of surprised. But, Shams, diligent reporter that he is,
and
dialed up Rich Paul.
Plugged-in reporter that he is.
Dialed up Rich Paul and, said, quote, I heard directly from Rich Paul that LeBron James isn't leaving the Lakers. Of course he's not. This team, then this is Shams then editorializing a little bit. This team doesn't look like it has the young legs that they need, and they have to and have been very active in the trade market. And that's obviously something we're going to be talking a lot about as we get closer to February. And really even January 15th when I think it's January, it might be the 15th, but mid-January when THT is actually able to be traded. Yes. But a couple things just about this. I mean, first of all, no, LeBron James is not going to be traded, but
more importantly, not going to ask to be traded. The Lakers are not going to trade LeBron. It's a question, and this is, I believe,
not without him demanding it. That's right. For sure.
That's the point, though. I mean, I don't think there was ever a question that the Lakers would say, you know what, we feel like this LeBron thing has run its course. Mm-hmm. It's LeBron deciding that this Laker thing had run its course. And, if you believe a lot of the conspiracy theories, hey, look at those young kids in Cleveland who look really good right now. And wouldn't a third tour of duty as my final send-off just be the storybook ending for this?
Who wouldn't want to finish in South Beach? It's like, right. I've always wanted to play with Jimmy Butler. And this is not a thing that Pat McAfee asks if the Lakers are 6 games over 500 and Anthony Davis gets hurt. It's just not. And it's even if it's not a real thing, it is another indicator of just how weird and disappointing this early season has been. Setting aside for a moment Shams's quote about how the delightful irony of the Lakers talking about how they need young legs and it's Jeremy Grant and they'd love to get Ben Simmons and all the, and because they don't feel like they have enough bounce and youth and young legs, and the only people that they have that they can dangle is the youngest guy on the team and a third-year player. That's what they can use. Third-year guy being Kendrick Nunn. That whole thing, though, is just it is indicative of the problems that the Lakers have going forward, the difficulty in fixing them, and the endless chatter that is going to be around them. One thing David Fizdale did talk about are some housekeeping lineup stuff that might come in terms of the availability of Dwight Howard for Thursday night's game. A game, again, the Lakers really do need to perform well. We'll ask another question about Trevor Ariza, who played very well on Tuesday. Should he be in the starting lineup? That and hopefully, so we get to some random Lakers and some stuff about Saturday's game, all coming up next.
Locked On Lakers fans, you've been hearing me tell you about Prize Picks for months. So have you signed up yet? Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. If you've not checked it out yet, you are missing out. You're going to love this app for the NBA and for mixed sports pick'em. Christmas Day games are hopefully going to be off the charts, and they are even more fun if they are A, being played, and B, if you play Prize Picks. Prize Picks has the best NBA DFS prop game on the market. PrizePicks offers more NBA props than any other DFS prop operator and offers all the superstar players as well as bench players, only recording a handful of minutes each game. PrizePicks allows mixed sport entries. Like you could do the over on LeBron James points combined with the under on Tom Brady touchdown passes, like in the same thing. Mix it up, make it weird, make it fun. Use the award-winning app on both the App Store and Google Play. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's that easy. PrizePicks, safe. They offer fast, easy withdrawals. Go to prizepicks.com today. Use the promo code NBA or go to the App Store, download the app. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. If you are not using PrizePicks, you honestly don't know what you're missing.
Locked on Lakers also brought to you by Boost Mobile. Andy, you listen to podcasts like this one for the power of knowledge. You switch to Boost Mobile for the power of saving money. Because with Boost, you get the power of a free 5G phone so you can listen to all the latest episodes of Locked on Lakers and other things, but mostly Locked on Lakers. The power of 3 unlimited data lines for $30 a month per line so your family can all harness that brain power too. And the power of one of America's largest 5G networks so you do it all at the speed of 5G. And with all that money you'll save and all that knowledge you'll gain, how powerful will you become? Like Thanos. Switch to Boost Mobile and find out. Get a free Samsung Galaxy A32 5G when you switch to one of America's largest 5G networks. Be more responsible than Thanos, though. More power to save. Boost Mobile. Free phone limited to new customers and only one per line. Additional restrictions apply. Offers and coverage not available everywhere or for all phones and networks. See boostmobile.com for details. A few people were asking, both on the YouTube channel and Locked on Lakers on YouTube. They asked the question, certainly on Twitter at Cam Brothers, why Dwight Howard didn't play on Tuesday and DeAndre Jordan did. We surmised that it was probably because Dwight was coming off of the COVID protocols and just from a win standpoint wasn't there. Keep in mind, guys are really not allowed to do anything. It's not like they're working out hard and practicing and all that. You can't.
THT said that basically all he did was watch movies, and he admitted that the game against Phoenix was tough on his legs, tough on his wind, all of that, and it showed.
Right, and granted, to be fair, THT was mostly watching movies about exercising, like this from John Travolta. But even that move, the pelvic thrust from John Travolta from the movie Perfect, is not going to keep you in NBA game shape. So Fizdale did say that Howard is likely to play Thursday. He should be fine by then to play. So I would expect Dwight and not DJ if they only play one guy. Another interesting thing, you heard this from our friends at which podcast was it? Was it
it's a Laker Film
podcast?
Pete, Darius, and Mike.
Yeah, they were talking
by the way,
about...
Mike, feel better. Mike is unfortunately in the COVID protocols right now. He is sideline reporter for the Lakers TV.
Right. After, by the way, filling in for literally everybody on that trip.
Yes.
He filled in for Billy Mack. He filled in for Michael Thompson. He filled in for John Ireland. He did everyone, as the Lakers broadcast team had to be shuffled around. And at the very end of it, ended up testing positive himself.
Right. And he's our buddy, so we hope he feels better.
So, you know, the topic of Trevor Ariza, who again played very well, made all 3 of his 3-pointers on Tuesday against Phoenix, just, you know, looked like what you would want from Trevor Ariza. Knew where he needed to be on the floor, made the right pass, connective tissue, all that kind of stuff. They asked the question of whether or not he should start. And, you know, we've been going through starting lineups and different ideas so much that, you know, you kind of got to go back to the beginning of the season. I think both of us had Ariza in our potential starting lineup at the beginning of the year. It makes I got no problem with this one at all if they wanted to put Trevor in there, you know, probably for, I would assume, THT.
Yeah, I mean, if not Trevor specifically, I think they do need to consider, and this is something I know I've talked about a lot. I don't think THT fits with the starters. He really didn't fit with them when Anthony Davis was there, but I think there's a lot that if you're really looking to put THT in his, you know, biggest places of strength and really utilize what he theoretically does best the most, you need the ball in his hands more. And the more that he plays primary minutes with LeBron and Russell Westbrook, particularly to start games when you're looking to set a tone and you're looking to kind of get yourself off to a good start, I don't know how much he's actually going to be utilized in ways that really help. And, you know, he's in a brutal shooting slump right now, but the truth is he's not a shooter, period. And, maybe
No.
that skill will develop. He still has a ton of time. He is still, we always have to remind, very young, very much in development. But the Lakers don't have the luxury of waiting on that. And if you can find a different configuration that makes more sense for both THT and whoever would replace him in the starting lineup, whether Trevor Ariza or somebody else, I really think it's something they should consider.
And look, it's not as if this means he's not going to play with Westbrook. He's not going to play with LeBron. All of this, like THT is going to get plenty of playing time with everyone, and he's still going to play a lot. But I agree with you. How can you maximize him? You can't, because you can't have one for, I believe, was he 1 for 11 or 1 for 12? He and Isaiah Thomas were just brutal. They had 24 empty shots between the two of them or something. On Tuesday. You can't have that. And the more THT has to shoot from the outside, the worse it tends to be. He is not somebody who's going to add a lot of space. And, he needs Westbrookian like lanes to free himself up. So I don't have a problem with that in the slightest. The one thing I would say, though, is in starting Trevor, it's like with all these guys, Andy, because as Shams pointed out, they may not have the youth and the bounce that they need.
They just discovered they didn't sign Trevor Ariza Jr.
Right.
Whoa, wait, the same guy from 2009? Oh my God, he's ancient.
He's still in the league? Good Lord.
All right, guys. All right, that's on me, Rob Pelinka. That was my mistake. I needed to investigate this.
We checked his ID. He said, I
love that.
28. Who are we to say that?
I do love the idea that they need to get more youthful. Yeah, no bleep. Did Rajon Rondo Danny Almonte them or something? Like, did they not know these people that they were putting on the team?
It was noted.
Yeah, it came
in
up.
many circles that the roster had some age on it. Like this didn't sneak up on most people. Apparently though, it did sneak up on them.
Well, to be fair, this is Shams editorializing. This is not a direct quote from him from Rob Pelinka. It's just kind of funny, the idea that this would be a prescription that the front office, as we get closer,
we got to get some legs on this team. Like they should want Jeremy Grant because Jeremy Grant's a good player who can help them now more than THT can and all that kind of stuff. But like,
just to be fair to the front office, that was Shams. Yes. That was not him quoting Pelinka, because that would be
to quote Rob Pelinka. Oh my goodness, who knew? No, that was not a direct quote. It's just us rolling our eyes at the concept of the Lakers feeling like they need an injection of youth again by trading their youngest player. But anyway, they need an injection of better is what they need, not so much an injection of youth. But if Trevor's going to start, it's got to be in the context of 20 minutes. 17 to 22 minutes. Carmelo Anthony needs to play 17 to 22. Like every third, fourth, fifth game, play a little more. Fine. You might need Ariza for 30 in one night. You might need Melo for 30. But then it's balanced out by a game where you use them for 12. They have to maintain the balance with their olds that keeps them playing at a high level. The reason you'd want to be able to start Ariza, I am almost 100% sure you will get a diminishing return if you make him play 32 minutes a night in quote unquote starters minutes. And we've seen the same be true for Melo. Austin Reeves, THT, those are still guys. Kendrick Nunn one day. Those are still guys, Malik Monk when he comes back, that they're going to need to rely on for real minutes. And I think Reeves and THT particularly. But the idea that Trevor starts, fine with me.
Yeah, I think all this
to ask me.
I think all this will become a little bit easier too. Once, like the biggest reason I could think of that maybe they couldn't start Trevor now is just with LeBron having to play so much small ball 5, maybe just the way the minutes get doled out, it's actually easier to make that happen with Trevor coming off the bench, just in terms of literally the floor combinations and stuff like that. But once you have a full squad with a little more size and, THT has his legs back under him a little bit more, Austin Reeves is back out there because he's relatively one of their bigger wings, for better or for worse. I do think it is possible to play Trevor as a starter, still keep it basically a 5-minute shift to open and close each half, I think that's doable. So
Yeah.
we'll see. And 20 minutes is 20 minutes. I'm just, again, I'm thinking about in terms of just floor combinations and who makes sense with who. Trevor makes sense with whoever you play him with. I mean, he's just one of those type of players.
He's one of the, Yeah, absolutely.
Right. I think THT is more specific, and that's really the big difference.
But partially because THT's value isn't. I mean, obviously they need him defensively, and that's part of what they're trying to do with him. And he was guarding all kinds of folks in that Tuesday game against Phoenix. But from an offensive standpoint, he is an active and can be a ball dominant guy. So you want him out there with the right people, and Trevor is not.
Right. And he's not so good defensively at this point that you look past the offensive issues.
Right. Exactly. All right. So Andy, Staples Center is no more, at least after Thursday night. And that's got people freaking out in ways that some of which I think are sentimental and wonderful, and others that kind of make me giggle. We'll talk about all of it next.
Locked On Lakers brought to you by Truebill. Do you know why free trials renew without your consent? It's a business scam out to get you. Don't let greedy corporations pocket your money. Download Truebill to take control of your subscriptions. Truebill is the new app that helps you identify and stop paying for subscriptions you don't need, want, or simply forgot about. Companies make subscriptions hard to cancel, but Truebill makes it incredibly simple. Just link your accounts and Truebill will cancel your unwanted subscriptions in one tap. Truebill has over 2 million users and has helped them save over $100 million collectively. On average, people save up to $720 a year with Truebill. So don't fall for subscription scams. Start canceling today at Truebill.com/LockedOnNBA. Go right now, Truebill.com/LockedOnNBA. It could save you thousands a year. Truebill.com/LockedOnNBA.
All right. So Thursday night, Andy, is the last game with the Staples Center title attached to the physical building that the Lakers will play in. And there's been all kinds of sentimentality, and people asked about, what is it? What's your favorite Staples Center memory? And all these other, as if they're going to be playing in a different building on Saturday. They're not. And I gotta be honest with you. I get like hey, let's look back at the last 20 years kind of thing. What are your favorite, what are some of the best games the last 20 years, best moments the last 20 years? I think there are people who are forgetting their team's not actually going anywhere. Like Staples Center is just being repainted, essentially. They're throwing up a new coat of paint on the thing, and everybody's going back to work in the same place and going to watch games in the same place or whatever on Saturday that they did on Thursday. But maybe I'm just an unsentimental old coot.
Well, it's not even that you're an unsentimental old coot, Brian, although make no mistake, you are. The issue is really, this is about being a fan of the team and really being connected to it. And for fans that are truly connected to Staples Center and what has happened in Staples Center, the 5 championships, all 5 with Kobe that took place in that building with that Staples Center floor, with that Staples Center roof. There's a connection to that, especially when you experience that inside that building as a fan, as opposed to people like, you or me, or, in my particular case, I was a massive Laker fan well before I ever started doing this for a living. But broadly speaking, 99% of the time when I was ever inside Staples Center watching a Laker game, I was watching it for work. And that's different than sitting in there as a fan. There are very specific connections and very specific memories to that time at Staples Center that goes beyond just the physical building. It's not about the apparatus. I mean, it's not about the framework of the arena. It's about what took place there and about what you visualize when it happened. So, and I'm not going to pretend that I've been freaking out over the crypto.com thing or, other than the idea that it just sounds bizarre. Like I'm not upset over it. But I get where fans are coming from. Like I understand what the connection is. And I think when
to the actual, to the sponsor of the building.
It's not the sponsor, though. It has nothing to do with the sponsor. It's what the building was called when it happened.
Sure.
Nobody cares that it's Staples. It's that it happened to be Staples. If it had been Office Depot, it would have been felt the same way as if it were Staples.
The OD.
Sure. It's got nothing to do with Staples itself. This was Staples when this happened. This will not be Staples anymore Therefore, that history that will continue in the building changes. And for a lot of fans, they don't like it.
Well, I mean, look, I get it. I understand. It's for me, it's like I make the comparison to like when our parents moved out of our childhood home. I was like, and that is a place that I have, sentimental attachment to both the building and whatever. And like if the Lakers were moving to another building, we've covered a lot of really amazing stuff there. Professionally, met a lot of people. I have good memories of working with people. There's a lot in that building that I have sort of. And if they were physically leaving the building, I might feel different. But when our parents moved to their other place, I was really concerned. I was like, oh my God, this is going to feel so weird. I'm not going to like it and all that kind of stuff. And not to get all sentimental here, but like, it's kind of the people and it's the stuff inside and it's the pictures on the walls and all that kind of, and none of that is going to change. I mean, I get what you're saying about when you,
but you're not connected the same way though.
You're just not. I know, I understand that, but I get what you're saying about the pictures
for a lot of Laker fans. For a lot of Laker fans, they feel an attachment to what was inside that building the way you felt attached to your house.
Right. And when I got to the new house, what I realized was I overrated and that was like when they literally did move, that I actually overrated the physical shell that our parents are living in. And it is, I walked in there and like my parents are there and I recognize the pictures and the furniture is the same and all that stuff. And I was like, not such a big deal. They're essentially repainting the thing. And I really do believe that part of the angst over this is that crypto.com arena is just fundamentally an undignified place for a team like the Lakers to play. Like, I don't give a bleep, but I mean, even with that, it still sounds ridiculous. It still appears ridiculous. And like, even keeping in mind that I actually think that the fact that the company that they're losing here has become so irrelevant to people in their daily. It is an office supply store that literally nobody shops at.
They just they just opened a new one like 6 blocks from where we live. They moved into a bigger facility.
There's a new Staples near you?
Yes, it's according to my wife, it is bigger now. Like the Staples that used to be near us is now relocated and larger than ever. So.
Touche. If they were changing this to the Ally Bank Arena or the Ally Bank Center, or pick just a normal sounding company, I think it would say it is the fact that crypto.com arena is an undignified thing for a team with 17 championships and 4,000 banners and Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant and all-star games and Taylor Swift and everything that has gone on in that building to be housed in. It's cartoonish, new money, and the Lakers just aren't that.
No, some fans complain they ought to be more new money. Might solve some problems. But like, here's the thing, though.
That to me is I fundamentally believe that's part of the issue.
That is part of it, but I think you're making it more of the entirety than it actually is. And the comparison that you made to our parents' house, I understand what you're saying, but one vast difference between that and the fans' relationship to then Staples Center, soon crypto.com is...
Well, most of those people hadn't been to our house.
Yes. The other one, though,
oh, okay.
Well, I guess the second one would be, we see our parents' house in St. Louis once every 7 years, 8 years, for me, maybe even longer. So it fundamentally changes nothing for us. I have been in our parents' new house, I believe, twice since they moved. So, and you've been there barely more than I have.
Coming up in a special bonus segment, why Andy is estranged from our parents.
But you know what I'm saying, though? Like
I get it.
It doesn't affect us.
You're not seeing the highlights every day and all that kind of stuff.
They live 2,000 miles from us. Where they live now ultimately does not affect our life in the slightest.
You brought up an interesting point when we were kind of texting back and forth about this, and again, how I am a cold and unemotional old coot. You brought up Kobe.
Yes.
If Kobe was still alive, do you think people would be reacting differently to this?
I think they might. Because Kobe was such a specific, huge part of that history. And when you take Staples Center off that floor, you are literally erasing part of that history, like in the most literal sense. Like all of the different iconic images of Kobe Bryant with that Staples Center floor, with the Staples signage behind him, which again has nothing to do with Staples. It's the visual and the sense memory and all of that. And, with Kobe being gone, fans want to preserve every single part of it that you still have. And that was his building more than anybody else's. And, like Staples Center opened with Kobe Bryant and Shaq and Phil Jackson winning a championship. And then Kobe was a part of 4 more of them. And I think more than anything, really more than anything else, I think even more than the indignities of crypto.com, I think it's the idea of you are taking away, pieces of Kobe for a lot of fans.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I'm joking some about this, but I think there's a whole range of things. I think there are people who really see it the way that you're talking about it there. I think there are people who are I'll never jersey patches. I'll never watch again. It's ridiculous. I'm not like, there's that crew. There's the crypto.com is just stupid. Whereas Staples Center, at least is alliterative. It kind of rolls off the tongue. You almost don't have to think about it as like my team plays in a dumb place. It's embarrassing. There's a whole range of things going on here, but I do think you are onto something for at least a segment of fans in terms of the Kobe attachment. But anyway,
last thing I wanted to let people know, just to kind of give an idea of how long they'd been playing at Staples Center and the world changing. The first game at Staples Center, November 3rd, 1999, the Lakers won 103-88 over the Vancouver Grizzlies. Shaq led all Lakers and all scorers with 28 points, also had 10 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 blocks. The starting lineup was Shaq, Glenn Rice, AC Green, Ron Harper, and Derek Fisher in the place of Kobe, who you remember, he broke his wrist before the season began, missed the first 15 games. Both teams, Brian, gunning it in this contest. 16 threes taken combined.
Right.
8 per team. Rick Fox was the sharpshooter of this game, went 1 for 4 because these teams went a combined 1 for 16. Rick Fox hit the only 3.
So they basically did a Buddy Hield, as combined.
And Travis Knight, being who he was, managed to get 2 fouls in just over 4 minutes. November 3rd, 1999, the number 1 movie of the moment was the remake of House on Haunted Hill with Taye Diggs, Jeffrey Rush, and Famke Janssen. It was about to shift towards The Bone Collector. The number 1 movie of 1999, The Phantom Menace. Number 1 song on November 3rd, Smooth, the Santana song with the dude from Matchbox 20.
Oh, and my God, that is not a good song.
Yeah, and the number 1 album of the year, Millennium by the Backstreet Boys, featuring a little tune called I Want It That Way.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's been a minute since they played anywhere else but Staples Center.
And you know what? None of this was shared on social media.
Mm-hmm.
None of it. I'm not totally positive. I don't remember when I got my first cell phone, but it might not have been 1999.
Maybe.
I don't remember.
I don't know.
Wow.
Different world, man.
So the end of Staples Center is nigh. Crypto.com arena is here, and we're all just going to have to get used to it. We'll probably just keep calling it Staples.
People will.
Basically what I plan on
doing.
Do
you even know what the Coliseum's naming rights are? I have no idea. It's the Coliseum.
No, but I never knew what. Right. I don't know if it's had a name and what. It doesn't matter. It's the Coliseum. But so, we'll all get used to it eventually. Figure out workarounds. That Saturday game is becoming a truly fascinating thing for the Lakers on all kinds of levels for the NBA. So plenty to talk about on Friday's episode, but obviously this one on Thursday night against San Antonio, who, by the way, are playing really well, is an important one, and we'll break it all down for you on Friday's show. Thanks a lot.